Minutes past 5, the King and Queen are saying a formal goodbye to the United States today as their state visit comes to an end. It's the first British visit to the country since Queen Elizabeth II's trip in 2007. And of course it comes as the US approaches the 250th anniversary of its independence from Britain. Ben Lord is a royal commentator from Suffolk. Ben, thank you for being with us. So your thoughts then, how do you think the trip's gone for the King and Queen?
Well, this trip was clearly designed to be one of reconciliation, one of getting the relationship, the special relationship at that, between the UK and the US back on track after what has been quite a tense couple of months geopolitically, given the unrest in the Middle East and other things that have been going on that have been instigated by America. So I think the modus operandi for this trip from the government's perspective and the Foreign Office was very clear what was needed from His Majesty, and I think he's achieved exactly that. I think it was perhaps one of the defining moments of his reign so far, and when you examine particularly some of the sentiments that was in the speech and address that he gave to members of the US Congress on Tuesday, that really was quite telling and compelling as to exactly the message that he was sending on behalf of the British people to America and to the White House.
They say that the monarchy is the perfect example of soft democracy, but that feels somewhat of an understatement after the 48 hours in Washington.
I mean, this has been much more than soft democracy. This has been supremely diplomatic. There's the tone, the language, the way that the king drew perspective from so many different aspects of our country's cultural relationships with one another. That, you know, saying things like, out of whatever disagreement, we've always come together, and that we've been each other's most staunch ally through the most difficult of times, whether that was for us during the Second World War or whether it was indeed coming up to 25 years ago when 9/11 happened. And of course, that's been another part of this timetable in recent days that saw His Majesty together with the Queen laying a small token at the 9/11 memorial.
So there were those very quiet, profound, gentle reminders of the UK-US history, but then moments of real humour.
And I think that very much shows that, you know, our royal family do pomp, ceremony and circumstance just beautifully. You know, we are the envy of the world and held in such envy by no other than America. But nevertheless, he managed to bring that common touch, that light-hearted, almost banter at points, you could say, you know, referencing 250 years ago, or as we say in Britain, just the other day. You know, was a very nice touch to kind of just softly make it light-hearted, but also reference the fact that, you know, our country are the custodians of enormous history going back, you know, over thousands of years as the UK, compared with America, who in respect of its independence is only coming up to 250 years.
And it's not just diplomacy on the world stage where it appears to have gone very well. I know one tweet does not make much, but there was a young American, I'd say maybe teenager, early 20s, that posted, "King Charles, I was not familiar with your game. Big fan." And I thought, what an brilliant intergenerational comment that it's even struck through to sort of the younger generations who didn't really have a relevance of King Charles in their life and thought he was funny and now see him in this very funny light.
Well, again, it's breaking down almost that stiff British upper lip that we are so well known for, and actually showing that we can do normal, we can do every day. And that's epitomised particularly through younger members of the royal family, as we've seen with the Prince and Princess of Wales. But, you know, equally, His Majesty has you know, learnt that very much in recent years, and we see that throughout. And of course, let's not forget, you know, his late father, the Prince Philip, the late Duke of Edinburgh, was also one for being quick-witted and coming out with some humorous remarks that he's fondly remembered for. So I think it's fair to say there's a genetic thing there as well as an embracing of modern times.
Can we talk about that incredible gift that Britain has given the United States, the Trump bell? What a genius move. I mean, I'm pretty sure King Charles, for all his wonderfulness, won't have been trawling through the archives. But you know what? He's such a hands-on guy. Maybe he did. Somewhere there is a civil servant or a palace aide that has played an absolute blinder getting that submarine HMS Trump bell from 1944.
I mean, it's just, an absolute superb stroke of geniusness, really. I mean, I'm just looking here at some of the photographs and references when the formal farewell happened from the White House with the President and the First Lady, where Trump points to the King and says he's the greatest king in my book. Well, I mean, given that King Charles is the first king this country's had for nearly 75 years, there isn't much to compare it to. But I think perhaps it is the fact that he has had the British king there. And the thing is with our royal family and with the king, or previously his mother, the late Queen, they're not just a king, a queen. They are the king, the queen. On the world stage, there is only one like them. And he will absolutely be reveling in what this has done for PR kudos over the last 3 or 4 days.
And let's quickly talk about New York and the 9/11 memorial, because it wasn't just about the Washington aspect of the trip. It was also about the relationship with the US. Very warmly met by families of victims of the 2001 attacks as well, weren't they?
Absolutely. I have watched a short time ago some of the footage that was taken from that, and just interviewing people who were passing through that vicinity of Lower Manhattan as the King and Queen were in attendance. And you can clearly see that the everyday American absolutely loves the fact that we've taken the time to be in town this week, that we've been in the country, and particularly standing in solidarity as part of this enduring grief, I think is the quote that was used. Despite the fact that this is coming up to 25 years ago, it was such a defining moment in modern history that how could we possibly not be standing together? And Americans seem particularly sensitive at what has gone on in more recent weeks as to wanting very much for that to not affect the special relationship with with our country that they have depended upon and valued so strongly in recent decades.
I have this enduring memory of, I'm not going to say hours, maybe the first 24 hours, a couple of days after 9/11, Bill Clinton, he wasn't the president at the time, obviously, but he was going into a meeting, he was going somewhere significant, obviously all the press on the sidewalk trying to get his attention, and someone shouted BBC, and he turned round and he would do an interview with the BBC. And I still found that so important 25 years on, because again, it was that relationship between the US and the UK.
Absolutely. I think, the 1990s and the fact that Bill Clinton was such a pinnacle orchestrator of the peace talks in Northern Ireland that led to what that did in the Good Friday Agreement shows just, again, how much the Americans have placed in respect with this country. And I think if you were to then fast forward to now, I wouldn't be surprised if similar scenes were to happen now in a White House press conference, that Donald Trump had been more interested to talk to the BBC than those of his own media that he frequently calls fake news. So I think that very much demonstrates the high regard that is held immaterial of the melodramacy that goes on and is recorded in the media on a daily basis of late.
Ben, it's always great to have you on. Thank you so much for being with us. Our political commentator, a royal expert commentator from Suffolk, Ben Lord there.